Emma embraced his crying daughters before saying hello. Michael's lies crumbled. She saw past the borrowed clothes, hidden billions, his walls, straight to two broken girls who desperately needed love. That moment changed it all. The late afternoon sun filtered through the windows of Riverside Cafe as Michael Bennett adjusted his worn baseball cap for the third time. He glanced down at his faded jeans and the simple gray t-shirt he'd borrowed from his gardener, still questioning what he was about to do. "Daddy, why are you dressed funny?" asked Lily, one of his 7-year-old twin daughters, tugging at his shirt. "Yeah, you look like Uncle Tom when he works in the yard," added Sophie, wrinkling her nose in that way that reminded Michael of their late mother. Michael knelt to their level, smoothing back identical blonde ponytails. "Remember what we talked about? Today we're meeting someone special, and I want her to see us as we really are." "But this isn't how we are," Lily protested with inherited logic. "You're wearing someone else's clothes." Michael sighed. 3 months ago, his sister Jennifer suggested he try dating again. 2 years had passed since Sarah's death, a car accident that shattered their world on a rainy Tuesday evening. 2 years of being both father and mother, of board meetings interrupted by school plays, of lonely nights after tucking the girls into bed. "Sometimes, sweetheart, we need to see who people truly are when they don't know everything about us," he explained. The truth was complicated. Michael Bennett wasn't just wealthy. He was one of the youngest self-made billionaires in tech, creator of software that revolutionized online security. His face had graced magazine covers. His mansion boasted 15 bedrooms. His cars cost more than most homes. Every woman he'd met since Sarah's death had known all of it before saying hello. "Mr. Bennett?" A tentative voice interrupted his thoughts. A young hostess approached with a nervous smile. "Your table is ready. Your friend called. She's running 10 minutes late. Traffic on the bridge." "Thank you," Michael said, taking each twin by the hand and following her to a booth near the back. He'd chosen this cafe deliberately, a modest neighborhood spot where he was unlikely to be recognized, a place where a man in borrowed clothes could be anyone. As they settled, Sophie tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, what if she doesn't like us?" The question pierced his heart. This was why he'd hesitated to date. It wasn't about finding someone for himself. It was finding someone who could love his daughters the way Sarah had. "Then she's not right for us," he said firmly, pulling both girls close. "Anyone who doesn't see how amazing you are isn't worth our time." Lily pressed her face against his chest. "I miss Mommy." "I know, baby. Me too." They sat in silence, a small island of grief in the bustling cafe. Other diners chatted and laughed around them, oblivious to the weight this little family carried. "Can we get hot chocolate?" Sophie asked, lightening the moment. "With extra marshmallows," Michael agreed. As he signaled their server, his phone vibrated. Jennifer's text read, "Remember, be yourself." Well, a broke version. "You've got this, little brother." Jennifer had arranged this blind date with her yoga instructor's friend, someone named Emma, who apparently had a good heart and didn't care about money. Jennifer insisted Michael not reveal his identity immediately. "Women need to meet the man, not the bank account," she'd argued. But sitting here now, in borrowed clothes, about to deceive a stranger, Michael wondered if this was his stupidest decision yet. "Is that her?" Lily whispered, pointing toward the entrance. Michael turned, and his breath caught. The woman entering was ordinary, not disappointing, but beautifully real. She wore simple jeans and a cream sweater. Her brown hair fell in natural waves past her shoulders. She carried an oversized purse that had seen better days, and her shoes were practical flats, not designer heels. But her face stopped him. There was softness there, kindness in her warm brown eyes as she scanned the cafe. When she spotted Michael's raised hand, her entire face lit up with genuine warmth. Emma weaved through tables toward them, and Michael noticed something else. She was looking at the girls, not him. Her eyes had gone straight to the twins, and there was something in her expression he couldn't place. Recognition? Longing? "Hi," Emma said breathlessly as she reached their table. "I'm so sorry I'm late. There was an accident on the bridge." She stopped mid-sentence, her gaze fixing on the girls. Sophie had tears on her cheeks. She'd been crying silently while Michael was distracted. Before Michael could react, before he could even introduce himself, Emma did something that would change everything. She set down her purse, ignored Michael completely, and knelt beside the booth. Not before him, but before Sophie. "Hey there, sweetheart," Emma said softly, her voice filled with concern. "What's wrong?" Sophie looked at her father, seeking permission to trust this stranger. Michael gave a small nod, too surprised to do otherwise. "I miss my mommy," Sophie whispered, fresh tears spilling. Without hesitation, Emma opened her arms. "Come here, honey." Sophie slid out and fell into Emma's embrace. Lily quickly joined them. Emma held both girls, rocking them gently, murmuring words Michael couldn't hear, but that seemed to work like magic. The cafe noise faded. Michael watched this stranger comfort his daughters with tenderness that made his chest ache. She didn't rush them, didn't look uncomfortable, didn't glance at him for guidance. She simply held them, letting them cry, stroking their hair with practiced gentleness. Other diners stopped to watch, some smiling at the touching scene, others looking away as if witnessing something too private. When the girls finally pulled back, Emma produced tissues from her pocket, actual tissues, and gently wiped their faces. "Better?" she asked softly. Both girls nodded, clinging to her hands. Only then did Emma look at Michael. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Understanding, connection, that had nothing to do with attraction and everything to do with recognition of shared pain. "I'm Emma," she said simply. "You're Michael?" "I am," he managed, voice rough with emotion. "These are my daughters, Lily and Sophie." Emma smiled at the girls, still kneeling. "What beautiful names. I bet you're both as smart as you are pretty." "We're identical," Lily informed her seriously. "Most people can't tell us apart." "Is that so?" Emma studied them carefully. "Well, I notice you," she touched Lily's nose gently, "have a tiny freckle right there, and you," turning to Sophie, "have slightly longer eyelashes on your right eye, so I think I'll manage just fine." The twins looked at each other in amazement. Their own father sometimes confused them, yet this stranger had noticed their subtle differences instantly. "Can we keep her?" Sophie asked Michael, with innocent hope that made nearby diners laugh. Emma blushed, standing and sliding into the booth across from Michael. "Well, that's quite an endorsement, but maybe we should have hot chocolate first and see if I'm actually keeper material." "We already ordered hot chocolate," Lily announced, "with extra marshmallows. You can have some of mine." "That's very generous," Emma said warmly. "I love hot chocolate." As the server arrived with drinks and took Emma's order, Michael found himself studying this woman who had just done something no one else had. Put his daughters first, before him, before the date, before any pretense of small talk. "So," Emma said, wrapping her hands around her mug. "Jennifer tells me you work in tech support?" Michael had almost forgotten the cover story. "Something like that," he said, the lie bitter. "I fix computer problems." "That must be interesting," Emma said politely. "I'm a third-grade teacher, much better at fixing playground disputes than computer problems." "You're a teacher?" Lily perked up. "What's your favorite subject?" "Reading," Emma answered immediately. "I love stories about families who stick together through hard times." "Because of your students?" Michael asked, curious. Emma's smile dimmed. "That and, well, stories help us understand we're not alone in our struggles." Something in her tone reminded Michael of his own grief. Before he could pursue it, Sophie asked another question. "Do you have kids, Miss Emma?" The question hung in the air. Michael saw Emma's hand tremble slightly. "No, sweetie, but I had a little sister once about your age." "Had?" Lily asked with child directness. "Lily," Michael started, but Emma shook her head gently. "It's okay. She passed away when she was 7. Long ago, but you never really stop missing someone you love." The twins processed this with seriousness. Then Sophie reached across and took Emma's hand. "You can share us," she offered. "We have enough love for extra people." Michael watched Emma's eyes fill with tears. She quickly blinked away. "That's the sweetest thing anyone's ever said to me." The afternoon passed like minutes. Emma taught the girls to make faces in hot chocolate foam. She listened intently to Lily's explanation of her rock collection. She helped Sophie draw a picture on a napkin. Through it all, she treated Michael not as potential romance, but as a fellow parent trying his best. As the sun set and the cafe emptied, Michael realized he hadn't thought about his wealth, status, or carefully constructed persona once. He'd just been himself, a father, a man carrying grief, a person seeking connection. "I should get you ladies home," Michael said reluctantly. "It's getting late." "Do we have to?" Both twins groaned. "Can Miss Emma come to our house?" Lily asked hopefully. Michael looked at Emma, expecting polite excuses. Instead, she bit her lip, considering. "I don't want to intrude," she said carefully, "but I'd love to see you girls again. If your dad thinks that's okay." "More than okay," Michael heard himself say. "How about next weekend? We could go to the park?" Emma's smile returned, brilliant and genuine. "I'd like that." As they gathered belongings and headed out, Michael felt Sophie slip her hand into his, and Lily reach for Emma's. They walked out like that, a makeshift family of 4, and Michael realized something had shifted in his world. He'd come wearing borrowed clothes, playing a role, testing a stranger. But Emma hadn't seen any of that. She'd seen his daughter's pain and responded with love. She'd seen through all his defenses without trying. "Thank you," he said quietly as they reached her modest sedan. "For today. For them." Emma looked at the twins, then back at him. "Thank you for trusting me with them. They're special girls." "They are," Michael agreed. "Their mother would have liked you." It was the first time he'd mentioned Sarah outside family, and saying it felt like opening a window in a closed room. Emma didn't pry. She simply nodded, gave each twin a hug, and got in her car. As Michael drove home in his Range Rover, still wearing borrowed clothes but feeling more himself than in months, he listened to the twins chatter about Miss Emma. "She's nice, Daddy," Lily declared. "She smells like vanilla and books," Sophie added. "She saw our differences," Lily continued, "that we're different people." Michael gripped the steering wheel, overwhelmed by how much his daughters needed exactly what Emma gave them, to be truly seen. That night, after tucking the girls into bed, Michael sat in his office staring at his phone. Emma had texted, "Thank you for a lovely afternoon. Your girls are amazing. See you next weekend?" His fingers hovered over the keyboard. He should tell her the truth now. Tell her about the mansion, the money, the life she'd be walking into. But something stopped him. Just one more week, he told himself. 1 week of being just Michael, the single dad. 1 week before reality complicated everything. He texted back, "They can't stop talking about you." "Next Saturday at 2? Her response was immediate. "Perfect. Sleep well, Michael." As he climbed the stairs, passing the twins' room where they slept peacefully for the first time in weeks, Michael felt something he hadn't experienced since Sarah's death. Hope. He just hoped she'd still feel that way when she learned the truth. 1 week later, Saturday afternoon arrived with the kind of sunshine that made promises feel possible. Michael stood in his walk-in closet, staring at rows of designer suits before pulling out another borrowed outfit from his gardener's locker. The deception felt heavier this time, weighted with the memory of Emma's genuine smile. "Daddy, can we bring our new rocks to show Miss Emma?" Lily called from her bedroom, already dressed and ready an hour early. "She said she wanted to see them," Sophie added, appearing in his doorway with her small backpack bulging with treasures. Michael knelt down, adjusting Sophie's ponytail. "You two really like her, don't you?" "She's different," Lily said, joining them with her own collection. "She doesn't talk to us like we're babies. She talks to us like we're real people." The observation stung. How many adults had patronized his daughters with that sing-song voice people used with children? Emma had spoken to them as equals from the first moment, respecting their intelligence, their grief, their personhood. "She is different," Michael agreed, the words carrying more weight than his daughters could understand. An hour later at Riverside Park, Emma was already waiting on a bench near the playground, dressed in jeans and a soft blue sweater that made her eyes warmer somehow. When she saw them approaching, her face lit up in a way that made Michael's chest tighten. No calculation, no agenda, just pure happiness at seeing them again. "Miss Emma!" Both twins broke into a run, their backpacks bouncing. Michael watched as Emma caught them both in a hug, laughing as they talked over each other in their excitement. She didn't glance at him first, didn't check to see if this level of affection was appropriate. She simply loved them, openly and without reservation. "I brought my rocks," Lily announced, already unzipping her bag. "And I brought the picture I drew of you," Sophie added. Emma settled cross-legged on the grass, giving both girls her complete attention. "Show me everything." Michael approached more slowly, carrying the picnic basket his housekeeper had prepared. He'd told Maria to pack simple sandwiches, nothing that would reveal the professional chef's training behind them. "Hi," Emma said, looking up at him with that smile that seemed to see straight through his defenses. "Hi," he managed, suddenly feeling like a teenager again. The afternoon unfolded like a dream Michael hadn't known he was allowed to have. Emma examined each of Lily's rocks with scientific interest, asking questions that showed she actually cared about the answers. She studied Sophie's drawing, a crayon rendering of Emma with exaggerated smile and arms spread wide, and her eyes filled with tears she didn't hide. "This is the most beautiful picture anyone's ever drawn of me," Emma said softly. "Can I keep it?" Sophie nodded eagerly. "I can make you more. I want to draw you and Daddy and Lily and me all together." "Like a family?" Emma asked gently. "Yeah," Sophie said. Then her face fell slightly. "Is that okay? I mean, you're not really our family, not yet. Maybe not ever, but you feel like family." Michael watched Emma process this, saw the way her hand trembled slightly as she reached to stroke Sophie's hair. "You know what?" Emma said. "Family isn't always about who you're related to. Sometimes it's about who makes your heart feel safe. And you two definitely make my heart feel safe." Lily, ever the logical one, considered this. "Does that mean we make you feel like family too?" "It does," Emma confirmed. "Good," Lily declared, "because you make us feel that way." They spread out the picnic on a blanket under an oak tree. As they ate, Michael found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't since before Sarah's death. Emma asked him about his work, the cover story about tech support, and he found himself weaving elaborate lies that tasted like ash in his mouth. "That must be stressful," Emma said sympathetically. "Dealing with people's computer emergencies all day." "It has its moments," Michael said vaguely, hating himself. "What about you?" he asked, desperate to shift focus. "What made you want to be a teacher?" Emma's expression softened. "My little sister, actually, Mia. She struggled in school because she had dyslexia, and some of her teachers were impatient with her. I used to help her with homework, and I realized how much difference it made when someone took the time to really understand how she learned." "She was lucky to have you," Michael said. "I was lucky to have her," Emma corrected. "Even though I lost her, the time we had taught me what really matters. Patience, understanding, meeting people where they are instead of where you think they should be." The words hung in the air between them, and Michael felt the weight of his deception grow heavier. Emma was literally describing what he wasn't doing, meeting her where she was honestly instead of hiding behind borrowed clothes and fabricated stories. "Can we go play on the swings?" Lily asked, breaking the tension. "Of course," Emma said. "Want me to push you?" "Yes," both twins chorused. Michael watched from the blanket as Emma pushed his daughters on the swings, their laughter carrying across the park. Other families played nearby, and he noticed a few people watching them, probably seeing what he saw. A mother with her children. A family. His phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. "How's it going?" He typed back, "Too well. I need to tell her." Jennifer's response was immediate. "Not yet. Give it time. Let her know the man before she knows the money." But Michael wasn't sure he was following his sister's advice anymore, or just being a coward. "Mr. Bennett?" He looked up to see a man in his 50s approaching, wearing an expensive suit and recognition in his eyes. Michael's stomach dropped. "Robert Hammond," the man said, extending his hand. "We met at the tech conference last year. I didn't expect to see you at a public park." Michael stood reluctantly, shaking the man's hand while his mind raced. "I'm here with my daughters." Of course," Robert said, his eyes drifting to where Emma was now helping the twins across the monkey bars. "Is that their nanny? She seems quite dedicated." The assumption sent a flash of anger through Michael. "That's Emma. She's a friend." "Ah," Robert said, the single syllable loaded with assumptions Michael didn't want to unpack. "Well, I won't keep you. Just wanted to say hello. Your keynote last month was brilliant, by the way. The future of cybersecurity, right in this park." He chuckled at his own joke. As Robert walked away, Michael felt his careful, constructed world tilting. How long could he keep this up? How many close calls before someone said something in front of Emma? "Daddy, come play with us," Sophie called. Michael walked toward them, forcing a smile. Emma was laughing, her hair coming loose from its ponytail, completely unself-conscious as she played. She caught his eye, and something in her expression shifted. "Everything okay?" she asked quietly, as the girls ran ahead to the slide. "Yeah," he lied. "Just someone I knew from work. He looked pretty dressed up for Saturday at the park," Emma observed. "Must be an important job you have, fixing computers." Michael's throat tightened. Was she testing him? Or just making conversation? "Some of my clients are corporate," he said carefully. "They expect a certain level of professionalism." Emma nodded, but something flickered across her face. Doubt? Suspicion? He couldn't tell. The rest of the afternoon passed too quickly. They played on every piece of playground equipment, had ice cream from a vendor, and watched clouds drift by while the twins pointed out shapes. Emma saw a butterfly. Lily saw a dragon. Sophie saw a heart. "What do you see, Daddy?" Sophie asked. Michael looked at the cloud, but he was really looking at Emma lying beside him on the grass, her hand almost touching his. "I see possibility," he said quietly. Emma turned her head, meeting his eyes. For a long moment, they just looked at each other, and Michael felt the air between them charge with something he hadn't felt in years. Not just attraction, though that was there. It was recognition, connection, the terrifying possibility of something real. "Miss Emma?" Lily's voice broke the spell. "Do you have a boyfriend?" "Lily!" Michael started to intervene, but Emma laughed. "It's okay," she said, sitting up. "No, sweetie, I don't have a boyfriend." "Why not?" Sophie asked with characteristic bluntness. "You're really pretty and nice." Emma's smile turned wistful. "I guess I've been waiting for someone who sees me for who I really am, not who they want me to be." The words hit Michael like a physical blow. That was exactly what he wasn't doing. He was showing her a version of himself, not the truth. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they gathered their belongings slowly, none of them wanting the day to end. Sophie took Emma's hand, looking up at her with hopeful eyes. "Will you come to our house next time? Daddy says we have a really big backyard with a garden and everything." Michael's heart stopped. The backyard, the enormous mansion, the 15-bedroom estate, the life that would reveal everything he'd been hiding. "I'd love to see your garden," Emma said, looking at Michael questioningly. "Maybe in a few weeks," Michael hedged. "The house is under renovation right now. It's kind of a mess." Another lie added to the pile. Emma's expression shifted just slightly, a flicker of something that might have been hurt or confusion. "Sure," she said. "Whenever works for you." They walked to the parking lot as streetlights flickered on, the twins between them holding hands. To anyone watching, they looked like a family finishing a beautiful day. But Michael felt his deception cracking under Emma's trust. At Emma's car, she gave each twin a long hug. "Thank you for sharing your rocks and your drawings and your day with me," she said. "You made my heart so happy." "You make our hearts happy too," Lily said seriously. After Emma drove away and they were in his Range Rover, Sophie spoke from the back seat. "Daddy, why did you tell Miss Emma our house is being renovated?" Michael's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What do you mean?" "Aunt Jennifer said the renovations finished last month," Lily added. "I heard her talking to Grandma about how nice the new kitchen turned out." Michael looked at his daughters in the rearview mirror, seeing Sarah's eyes looking back at him with confusion and, worse, disappointment. "Sometimes," he said slowly, "grown-ups make mistakes, and sometimes we think we're protecting people, but we're really just protecting ourselves." "Are you protecting Miss Emma or protecting yourself?" Lily asked with devastating accuracy. Michael pulled into his garage, attached to the mansion he'd lied about, and turned to face his daughters. "I don't know anymore, sweetheart. I honestly don't know." That night, after tucking the girls into bed, Michael stood in his office overlooking the city. His phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Today was wonderful. Your girls are so special. Thank you for sharing them with me." He stared at the message, his finger hovering over the keyboard. "Tell her," his conscience screamed. "Tell her now before this goes any further." But instead he typed, "They love you already. So do I." He deleted the last sentence before sending, his cowardice complete. Tomorrow, he told himself. Tomorrow he'd tell her the truth. Tomorrow he'd risk losing the first real thing he'd felt in years. But tonight, he'd let himself believe that a man in borrowed clothes and a teacher with a heart full of love could build something real on a foundation of lies. He just didn't know how long before the whole thing came crashing down. Monday morning arrived with the kind of gray sky that matched Michael's mood. He'd barely slept, his mind replaying the moment when his daughters had caught him in his lie. Their disappointed faces haunted him more than any business failure ever had. "Mr. Bennett, your 9 o'clock is here," his assistant Carmen announced through the intercom. Michael straightened his tie, forcing himself back into CEO mode. The morning passed in a blur of meetings and decisions that once would have energized him. Now they felt hollow, meaningless compared to the weight of what he was risking with Emma. By noon, he'd made a decision. He pulled out his phone and typed, "Can we talk? There's something important I need to tell you." Emma's response came quickly. "Of course. Is everything okay with the girls?" Michael's chest tightened. Even now, her first thought was for his daughters. "They're fine. This is about me. About us." There was a longer pause this time. "Us? Can you meet me at Riverside Cafe tomorrow afternoon? 2 p.m.? I'll be there." Michael stared at the screen, knowing that in 24 hours, everything would change. Either she'd understand, or he'd lose her. There was no middle ground anymore. The next afternoon, Michael arrived early, dressed in one of his tailored suits this time. No more borrowed clothes. No more pretending to be someone he wasn't. If he was going to confess, he'd do it as himself. He was studying the menu when he heard a familiar voice behind him. "Michael Bennett? I thought that was you." He turned to see Patricia Whitmore, a journalist who'd interviewed him for Forbes. His stomach dropped. "Patricia," he managed, standing politely. "I'm working on a follow-up piece about young tech billionaires," she said enthusiastically. "Your company's latest security software is changing the industry. Do you have a moment for a quick quote?" "Actually, I'm meeting someone. This will only take a second. Our readers love you. The self-made success story. The widower raising twin daughters alone while running a billion-dollar company. It's inspiring." Michael felt the blood drain from his face as he saw Emma walk through the cafe door. Her eyes found him immediately, then traveled to Patricia, to his expensive suit, to the leather briefcase he'd thoughtlessly brought. Emma's steps slowed. Her expression shifted from warm anticipation to confusion. "I really can't right now," Michael said urgently to Patricia. But the journalist was already turning, following his gaze. "Oh, is this your girlfriend? How wonderful. Our readers would love to know that Michael Bennett is dating again." Emma stopped 3 feet away, her face pale. "Michael Bennett," she repeated slowly. "The Michael Bennett? Emma, I can explain. The tech billionaire Michael Bennett?" Her voice was quiet, but something in it made Patricia take a step back. "Ma'am, I didn't mean to intrude," Patricia said, suddenly reading the room. "I'll call your office, Michael." She left quickly. The cafe had gone quiet. Other diners were recognizing him now, whispering, pointing discreetly. Michael saw Emma register all of it. The attention, the recognition, the truth he'd been hiding. "Please sit down," Michael said. "Let me explain." Emma sat across from him, hands folded. "You're a billionaire." "Yes." "You own a tech company." "I created one." "Yes." "You don't fix computers." "No." "You lied to me." Michael ran his hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration he'd suppressed for weeks. "I didn't lie exactly. I just didn't tell you the whole truth." "That's the same thing, Michael." Emma's voice was steady, but he could see her hands trembling. "What else wasn't true? The girls? Are they even your daughters?" "Of course they are," Michael said, hurt. "Emma, everything about them was real. Everything we felt. How can I know what was real?" Emma interrupted, her voice cracking. "You wore borrowed clothes. You pretended to be someone else. You let me talk about my apartment, my salary, my student loans, and you just felt sorry for me?" "No. God, no." Michael leaned forward. "I wanted you to see me, the real me, not the money or company or headlines, just me, a father, a man who what? Who thought it would be fun to play dress-up with the poor teacher." Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks now. "Do you know how that makes me feel? Like I was some kind of experiment. Like you were testing whether I was a gold digger." The accuracy of her accusation hit like a physical blow. "At first," Michael admitted quietly. "Maybe that was part of it. I've had so many women only interested in my money since Sarah died. I wanted to know if someone could care about me without all that." "So you lied?" "So I lied," he confirmed miserably. Emma wiped her tears with shaking hands. "What about the girls, Michael? What did you tell them? That I was some kind of test?" No, they don't know I have money either. I mean, they do, obviously, but they don't understand what it means. They just know you as Miss Emma, who loves them. Who loved them, Emma corrected, standing up. Past tense. Panic seized Michael's chest. Emma, please don't do this. Don't punish them for my mistake. I'm not punishing anyone, Emma said, her voice breaking completely now. I'm protecting myself. Because I made a mistake too, Michael. I fell for you. For who I thought you were. For the struggling single dad in borrowed clothes who was just trying to do right by his kids. But that person doesn't exist, does he? He does exist, Michael insisted, standing too. That's exactly who I am. The money doesn't change. The money changes everything. Emma's voice rose, drawing more attention. She lowered it again, but the pain in her eyes was devastating. Money means power. It means access. It means you could have told me the truth any time, but you chose not to. You chose to let me make a fool of myself. You didn't make a fool of yourself. You were perfect. You are perfect. Emma shook her head, backing away. I need to go. Emma, wait. No, Michael. You had weeks to tell me. You had chances. But you waited until I… She stopped, swallowing hard. Until I cared too much. That's not fair. I know, and I'm sorry. Please just give me a chance. To what? Explain why lying was easier than trusting me? No. Emma grabbed her purse. Tell the girls I'm sorry. Tell them I love them. But I can't do this. She walked out, leaving Michael standing alone as every eye watched his public humiliation. For once, his money and status meant nothing. He'd lost what mattered. That evening, "Where's Miss Emma?" Sophie asked as soon as Michael walked through the door. He'd been dreading this moment all afternoon. She's not coming over tonight, sweetheart. Why not? Lily's face fell. Did something happen? Michael sat heavily on the couch and both girls climbed up beside him, their small bodies warm against his. I made a mistake, he said carefully. A big one. And Miss Emma is upset with me. What kind of mistake? Sophie asked. I wasn't honest with her about some things. About who I am. Lily's eyes narrowed. The renovation lie? Among other things. Michael pulled them both closer. I didn't tell her that Daddy has a lot of money, that we live in a big house, that I'm not just a regular guy who fixes computers. Why not? Sophie looked genuinely confused. Because I wanted her to like me for me, Michael tried to explain. Not for what I have or what I can buy. But she did like you for you, Lily said with frustrating logic. She liked you in borrowed clothes eating picnic food. So why would she care about the money? Because I lied about it, sweetie. I wasn't honest, and that hurt her feelings. Are you going to apologize? Sophie asked. I tried, but sometimes sorry isn't enough. Lily was quiet for a moment, then said, Mommy used to say that when you hurt someone, you have to show them you're sorry, not just say it. You have to prove you learned your lesson. The wisdom coming from his 7-year-old daughter nearly broke him. You're right, baby. I do need to prove it. So what are you going to do? Sophie asked. I don't know yet, but I promise you both, I'm going to figure it out. That night, Michael lay in bed staring at the ceiling. His phone sat on the nightstand, Emma's contact information displayed on the screen. He'd typed and deleted a dozen messages, none of them saying what he needed to say. Finally, he gave up on texting and just wrote from the heart. Emma, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know something. You were right about everything. I lied because I was a coward, not because I thought you were a gold digger, but because I was terrified that if you knew the truth, you'd treat me differently. Everyone does. Since Sarah died, every woman I've met has seen dollar signs before they've seen me. But you didn't. You saw my daughters first. You saw their pain, their hope, their need for someone to love them without agenda, and you gave that to them freely, asking nothing in return. That's who you are, and I fell in love with that person. With you. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to respond. But I needed you to know that every moment we spent together was real for me. The laughter, the conversations, the feeling of hope I haven't had in years, all of it was real. You weren't falling for someone who doesn't exist. You were falling for me, the real me, the man under all the lies and defenses. I understand if you can't trust me anymore, but please don't doubt what we had. It was real, Emma. You were real. And I'm so sorry I wasn't brave enough to be real with you from the start. The girls miss you. I miss you. And if you ever decide you can give me another chance to prove that I'm the man you thought I was, minus the borrowed clothes, I'll spend the rest of my life showing you that you weren't wrong to believe in me. Love, Michael. He hit send before he could second-guess himself, then set the phone face down on the nightstand. Down the hall, he heard soft crying. He got up and found both twins in Sophie's bed, holding each other. "We miss her," Sophie said when she saw him in the doorway. "I know, baby. So do I." "Can't you fix it?" Lily asked. "You fix everything." Michael sat on the edge of the bed, smoothing their hair. "Some things can't be fixed quickly. Some things take time and patience and proving you've changed. Like when I broke Sophie's favorite doll and had to earn back her trust," Lily asked. "Exactly like that. That took forever," Lily remembered. "It did," Michael agreed. "But you did it. You showed her every day that you were sorry until she believed you." "So you have to show Miss Emma every day?" Sophie asked. "Something like that." "We'll help," Lily declared. Michael's throat tightened. "Thank you, girls. But this is something Daddy has to do himself." He tucked them back in, kissed their foreheads, and returned to his own bed. His phone remained silent. Emma didn't respond that night, or the next day, or the day after that. Michael understood. He'd broken something precious, and it would take more than words to repair it. But he was prepared to wait, because Emma was worth waiting for. And for the first time in years, he was ready to fight for something that mattered more than business or money or status. He was ready to fight for love. 3 weeks passed in painful silence. Michael respected Emma's space, didn't call, didn't text again after that first heartfelt message. But he couldn't stop himself from driving past the elementary school where she taught, just to catch a glimpse of her during afternoon recess duty, watching her smile at other people's children while his own cried for her at night. "You look like a stalker, you know," Jennifer said one afternoon, catching him parked across the street with binoculars he'd claimed were for bird watching. "I'm not stalking. I'm just checking that she's okay." "She's not okay, Michael. And neither are you." Jennifer climbed into the passenger seat uninvited. "The girls told me they cry themselves to sleep asking for Miss Emma." The guilt was a physical weight in Michael's chest. "I don't know how to fix this." "Maybe you can't fix it," Jennifer said gently. "Maybe you can only be honest and let her decide." "I was honest. She didn't want to hear it." "You were honest in a text message, little brother. That's not the same thing." That evening, Michael made a decision that would change everything. He pulled out his laptop and began typing. Not a simple text or email, but something more permanent, more meaningful. By midnight, he'd written 10 pages of raw emotion. By morning, he'd carefully edited them down to one single letter, handwritten on simple paper with a pen that had belonged to Sarah. He mailed it to the school, addressed to Ms. Emma Carter, 3rd grade teacher. No return address. No expectation of response. The letter read, "Dear Emma, I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness. I'm writing because you deserve to understand why I did what I did, even if it doesn't change anything. When Sarah died, I became 2 people. There was Michael Bennett, the CEO, the billionaire, the name in headlines. And there was Dad, the man who couldn't figure out how to braid hair or remember which twin was which some mornings. The first person attracted attention I didn't want. The second person was drowning, and nobody noticed. Every woman who approached me after Sarah's death saw Michael Bennett first. They researched my net worth before learning my daughter's names. They talked about my mansion before asking about my grief. I became so tired of being seen as a bank account that I stopped believing anyone could see me as just a man. Then Jennifer told me about you, a teacher who loved her students, someone with a genuine heart. And I was terrified that if you knew about the money first, you'd become like everyone else. So I lied. But here's what I learned. You never would have been like everyone else. You proved that the moment you knelt down to comfort my crying daughters before even saying hello to me. You proved it every time you chose to spend time with us doing simple things, parks and picnics and hot chocolate, instead of asking what I could buy you. You proved it by seeing Lily and Sophie as individuals, by noticing their small differences, by loving them for who they are. I didn't trust you with the truth because I'd forgotten what real trust looks like. Sarah trusted me completely, and I took that for granted until she was gone. When you came into our lives, I was so afraid of losing that feeling again that I protected myself instead of being vulnerable. You asked if the person you fell for was real. He is. The man who feels lucky just to hear his daughters laugh again. That's real. The father who lies awake at night wondering if he's enough. That's real. The widower who thought he'd never feel hope again until you walked into that cafe. That's real. The only lie was the clothes I wore and the job title I gave. Everything else, every laugh, every conversation, every moment of connection, that was the real me. The me that Sarah loved. The me I'd forgotten existed until you reminded me. I understand if you can't forgive me. I understand if trust, once broken, can't be repaired. But I needed you to know that you didn't fall for a fake person. You fell for the man I am when I'm brave enough to be vulnerable. And I fell for the woman who taught me what vulnerability looks like. The girls miss you, but more than that, they love you. And they taught me something important. Love isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up honestly, even when it's hard. I failed at that, but I'm learning. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Not Michael Bennett the billionaire, just Michael, the imperfect father, the flawed man, the person who sees you exactly as you are and thinks you're extraordinary. Always, Michael. 5 days later, Michael was working in his home office when Carmen buzzed him. Sir, there's a woman here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's personal. Michael's heart stopped. Send her up. He stood, straightening papers that didn't need straightening, trying to calm his racing pulse. When the office door opened, Emma stood there in her teacher clothes, a simple dress and cardigan, looking nervous and beautiful and heartbreakingly uncertain. Hi, she said quietly. Hi. Michael stayed behind his desk, afraid that moving closer would scare her away. I got your letter. I hoped you would. Emma stepped inside, closing the door behind her. It was beautiful, and it explained a lot. But Michael, I need to know something before we go any further. Anything. Why now? Why tell me the truth that day at the cafe instead of on your own terms? Was it only because you got caught? The question was fair. Michael had asked himself the same thing 100 times. Partly, he admitted. I was planning to tell you. I'd decided that morning. But yes, having Patricia show up forced my hand. And I hate that. I hate that I didn't have the courage to tell you myself, in private, the way you deserved. Emma nodded slowly, processing this. Your letter said you forgot what trust looks like. But Michael, trust isn't just about believing someone. It's about being believed in. Do you understand the difference? I'm not sure. You didn't trust me with your truth, Emma explained, moving closer now. But you also didn't believe I was strong enough to handle it. You made that decision for me. You decided I couldn't separate the man from the money, without giving me the chance to prove otherwise. The words hit Michael like a revelation. You're right. I treated you like you were fragile when you're the strongest person I know. I am strong, Emma agreed. Strong enough to walk away from someone I was falling in love with because he didn't respect me enough to be honest. And strong enough to come here today, even though I'm scared. Scared of what? Emma's eyes filled with tears. Scared that I'll let myself love you again and lose you anyway. Scared that your girls will become my whole heart, and then circumstances will take them from me like they took Mia. Scared that this feeling, this hope, is just setting me up for more pain. Michael came around the desk, stopping a few feet away. I can't promise you won't lose me someday. Life doesn't work that way. But I can promise that if you give me another chance, I will never lie to you again. I will never make decisions about us without including you. I will be vulnerable even when it terrifies me. How do I know you mean that? Because the last 3 weeks without you have been hell, Michael said simply. Not because I miss having you in my life, though I do, but because my daughters cry for you every night. Because they ask me daily when Miss Emma is coming back. Because they love you, Emma, and losing you hurt them in a way I can't fix. Emma wiped her tears. That's not fair, using the girls. I know, but it's true. And I think you need to hear that your absence matters, that you're not replaceable, that we're all broken without you, and no amount of money can fix that. For a long moment, Emma just looked at him. Then she said, I need conditions. Anything. First, you tell me everything. Your real job, your real house, your real life. No more surprises. Done. Second, if this is going to work, I meet you in your world as equals. I don't want you to pretend to be poor to make me comfortable. I want honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Agreed. Third, and this is the most important one, we go slow. Not for you and me, but for Lily and Sophie. They've already lost one mother. I won't let them get attached to me again unless we're both sure this is permanent. Michael felt his throat tighten. So you're saying there's a chance? Emma closed the distance between them, stopping right in front of him. I'm saying that the man I fell for, the one in borrowed clothes who let his daughters eat extra marshmallows and who carried grief like an old friend, that man is someone I could love forever. But I need to know if he exists when the clothes are expensive and the house is a mansion. He does, Michael promised. Let me prove it. How? Michael thought for a moment. Come to dinner, at my real house. Meet the real me. See where I live, how I live. And if after seeing all of it, you still think there's something here worth saving, then we'll figure out the rest together. Emma searched his face, looking for deception or doubt. Whatever she saw must have satisfied her because she nodded. Okay, but I have one more condition. Name it. When I come to dinner, I want you to wear those borrowed clothes one more time. Michael blinked, confused. Why? A small smile played at Emma's lips. Because I need to know that you understand something. I didn't fall for the clothes or the lack of money. I fell for the man who was humble enough to dress down, who valued authenticity over image. That's who I want to have dinner with. That version of you. Understanding dawned. You're testing whether I can be that person in my own house without the costume. I'm reminding you which version of yourself I fell in love with, Emma corrected. Wear whatever you want, Michael. But remember that I'm not coming for the mansion or the money. I'm coming for the man who knows how to braid hair imperfectly and makes terrible sandwiches and loves his daughters more than his empire. That man is me, Michael said softly, with or without designer suits. Then prove it. Emma turned to leave, but Michael caught her hand gently. Thank you, he said, for being brave enough to give me another chance. Don't thank me yet, Emma replied. You still have to survive dinner with two very excited 7-year-olds who have been drawing pictures of me for 3 weeks straight. Michael laughed, the sound surprising them both. They're going to lose their minds when they find out you're coming over. Good, Emma said, squeezing his hand before letting go. They deserve to be happy. All three of you do. As she walked out of his office, Michael stood alone in the space, feeling something he hadn't felt since that first day at the cafe when Emma had smiled at him across the table. Genuine, unguarded hope for the future. This time, he would get it right. This time, he would be the man his daughters needed and the partner Emma deserved. This time, he would lead with truth instead of fear. And maybe, just maybe, they could build something real on a foundation that wouldn't crumble under the weight of secrets. Saturday evening arrived with the kind of anticipation that makes time move differently. Michael stood in his bedroom, looking at the clothes laid out on his bed. An expensive designer suit on one side, his gardener's borrowed jeans and t-shirt on the other. He chose the jeans. Downstairs, Lily and Sophie were decorating the dining room with drawings they'd made over the past 3 weeks. Every picture featured Emma with them at the park, Emma reading stories, Emma with arms spread wide like she could hold the whole world. Is she really coming, Daddy? Sophie asked for the 100th time. She really is, sweetheart. What if she sees our big house and gets scared? Lily worried, her logical mind already anticipating problems. Michael knelt down, gathering both girls close. You know what? If the house scares her away, then she wasn't the right person for us. But I don't think it will. I think she's coming to see us, not our stuff. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock. Michael's heart hammered as he opened the door. Emma stood there in a simple dress, holding a casserole dish. Her eyes widened as she took in the mansion behind him, but then her gaze found his face, traveled down to his borrowed clothes, and her expression softened into something that looked like relief. You wore them, she said quietly. I told you. This is who I am. Miss Emma! Both twins appeared, launching themselves at her with such force that Michael had to steady the casserole dish before it crashed to the floor. I missed you so much, Sophie cried, not letting go. We drew you pictures every single day, Lily added, taking Emma's free hand. Come see. We put them all over the dining room. Emma looked at Michael over the girls' heads, tears already forming. Lead the way, she said. The evening unfolded like a dream Michael was afraid to wake from. Emma's casserole, a simple chicken and rice dish that probably cost less than $5 to make, sat at the center of their formal dining table that could seat 20. The contrast would have been comical if it hadn't been so perfect. As they ate, the twins talked over each other, 3 weeks of stored-up Emma stories pouring out. Emma listened to every word, laughing at the funny parts, asking questions about the sad parts, being fully present in a way that made Michael fall in love with her all over again. "Can I show you my room?" Sophie asked when dinner ended. "And mine," Lily added. "We're identical, but our rooms are totally different." "I'd love to see them," Emma said, letting herself be pulled away by eager hands. Michael stayed behind, cleaning up dishes and giving Emma time alone with his daughters. Through the ceiling, he could hear their laughter, the sound warming something in his chest that had been cold for too long. 30 minutes later, Emma came back downstairs alone. She found Michael in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, washing dishes by hand despite having a state-of-the-art dishwasher. "They fell asleep," Emma said softly. "Both of them, in Lily's bed, holding hands. They do that when they're really happy," Michael explained. "Sarah used to say it was their way of making sure the good moments didn't disappear while they slept." Emma moved closer, picking up a towel to dry the dishes. They worked in silence for a few minutes before she spoke. "This house is enormous." "I know. You have a theater room, a gym, and what might be an actual library with rolling ladders." "Sarah designed it," Michael said quietly. "She loved books, wanted the girls to grow up surrounded by them. It's beautiful, all of it. But Michael," Emma set down the dish she was drying and turned to face him, "it's also just a house." "What do you mean?" "I mean that walking through those doors, seeing this mansion, meeting the real Michael Bennett, none of it changed how I feel about you. Because you were right in your letter. The man I fell for is the one standing here in borrowed clothes, washing dishes, with soap suds on his sleeve. That's who I see. Not the house or the money or the company." Michael set down the dish he was holding, his hands trembling slightly. "I was so afraid you'd see all this and realize I'm not who you thought I was." "But you are," Emma insisted. "You're exactly who I thought you were. You're just a version of that person who happens to have resources. The resources don't define you, your choices do, and you chose to be honest, even when it was hard. You chose to let me make my own decision instead of deciding for me. That's the man I'm falling in love with." The words hung in the air between them. Michael took a step closer. "Say that again." "Which part?" "The falling in love part." Emma smiled, reaching up to touch his face. "I'm falling in love with you, Michael Bennett. The real you. The scared father, the imperfect man, the person who makes terrible sandwiches and wears other people's clothes and thinks money can't buy happiness, but worries everyone else thinks it can." Michael kissed her. It was their first kiss, and it tasted like second chances in truth and the possibility of something lasting. When they pulled apart, Emma rested her forehead against his. "So what now?" "Now we take it slow," Michael said. "Like you asked. We date properly. I introduce you to my world, you introduce me to yours. We let the girls see that we're serious without moving too fast. We build something real. On a foundation of truth this time," Emma added. "On a foundation of truth," Michael agreed. 6 months later, the charity gala was the kind of event Michael usually dreaded. Wealthy people writing checks to feel good about themselves, business deals disguised as philanthropy, cameras flashing to capture who wore what expensive gown. But tonight was different. Tonight, Emma was beside him in a dress she'd bought herself, insisting she didn't want him to pay for it. She looked stunning, not because of the dress, but because of the way she carried herself. Confident, genuine, unbothered by the opulence around her. "You okay?" Michael asked as they entered the ballroom. "Honestly, this is overwhelming," Emma admitted. "But I'm here for you, so I'm okay." They mingled through the crowd, Michael introducing Emma to business partners and colleagues. He watched carefully as each person assessed her, the teacher dating the billionaire, the simple woman on the arm of one of tech's most powerful men. Some were kind. Others were condescending in that polite way wealthy people had perfected. Emma handled all of it with grace, never pretending to be someone she wasn't, never apologizing for being a third-grade teacher instead of an heiress. There you are. Patricia Whitmore appeared, the journalist who'd accidentally revealed Michael's identity 6 months ago. "Michael, I've been hoping to speak with you. And you must be Emma. I've heard so much about you." Emma smiled politely. "All good things, I hope." "Fascinating things," Patricia corrected. "Everyone's curious about the woman who captured Michael Bennett's heart. Some are saying you're refreshingly normal. Others are questioning whether you're with him for his money." The bluntness made several nearby conversations stop. Michael felt his jaw tighten, but Emma's hand on his arm stopped him from speaking. "Let me address that," Emma said calmly. "I'm a teacher. I make $43,000 a year. I have student loans I'll be paying off for another decade. I drive a 12-year-old car and clip coupons for groceries. By every measurable standard, Michael and I come from different worlds." Patricia leaned in, sensing a story. "So, why are you together?" "Because he's kind to his daughters. Because he washes dishes even though he could pay someone. Because he wore borrowed clothes to make me comfortable and had the courage to admit he was wrong. Because when his twins cry at night, he sits with them until they sleep, even if it takes hours." Emma's voice was steady, but Michael could see the emotion behind it. She continued, "You want to know if I'm with him for his money? Here's your answer. I fell in love with a man who pretended to be broke. I didn't know about the money, didn't care about it, and still don't. What I care about is whether he's a good father, a decent human being, and someone who treats me as an equal, despite the zeros in his bank account." The crowd around them had grown larger, people drawn by the unusual honesty in a room usually filled with polite lies. "And for the record," Emma added, looking directly at Patricia, "I didn't capture Michael's heart. He gave it to me freely, and I gave him mine in return. That's not a capture. That's a choice. One we both made, and continue to make every single day." The silence that followed was heavy. Then, unexpectedly, someone started clapping. An older woman Michael recognized as Margaret Chen, founder of several major charities, stepped forward. "That's the most honest thing I've heard at one of these events in 30 years, Margaret said warmly. "Young lady, I'd love to talk to you about your classroom. I've been looking for authentic educators to advise my education foundation." The moment broke. Conversations resumed. Patricia excused herself, probably to write her article. But Michael stood frozen, looking at Emma with something like awe. "You just publicly defended our relationship to a room full of judgmental millionaires," he said quietly. "I defended us," Emma corrected, "because we're worth defending." Later that night, back at Michael's house where Emma now spent most weekends, they sat in the library Sarah had designed. The twins were asleep upstairs, visited earlier by Emma, who'd read them 3 stories and braided their hair for tomorrow's soccer game. "Do you ever regret it?" Michael asked, pulling Emma close on the oversized couch. "Choosing this life, dealing with the public scrutiny, the judgment, the complexity." Emma was quiet for a moment, considering. "I regret that we didn't start with honesty. But I don't regret where we ended up, because you taught me something important." "What's that?" "That love isn't about circumstances. It's not about having the same bank account or coming from the same background or living in the same size house. Love is about seeing someone, really seeing them, and choosing them anyway. It's about vulnerability and truth and building something together that's stronger than what either person could build alone." Michael kissed her temple. "You're too wise for your $43,000 a year." Emma laughed, swatting his arm. "And you're too humble for your billions. Maybe we balance each other out." "Maybe we do." Upstairs, Sophie called out from a bad dream. Without hesitation, both Michael and Emma stood, walking together up the stairs to comfort her. As they sat on the edge of Sophie's bed, with Lily stirring awake too, Michael watched Emma gentle his daughters back to sleep with whispered words and soft touches. This, he realized, was what mattered. Not the house or the money or the company or the headlines. This moment, this family. This love built on truth instead of pretense. "I love you," he whispered to Emma as they left the girls' room. "I love you too," she whispered back. "The real you. All of you." And Michael finally understood what Sarah had tried to tell him in those final moments after the accident. That happiness isn't found in protecting yourself from loss. It's found in being brave enough to love deeply, honestly, completely, knowing that vulnerability is not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. The following spring, when Michael proposed in the same cafe where they'd first met, wearing the same borrowed clothes that had started everything, Emma said yes without hesitation. The twins were there too, hiding behind a nearby booth, watching with held breath as their father knelt down. When Emma said yes, Lily and Sophie burst from their hiding spot, crashing into both adults with squeals of joy. The other cafe patrons erupted in applause. The owner brought out free hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. The wedding was small. Just family and close friends in the garden Sarah had designed, where roses bloomed and butterflies danced. Emma wore a simple dress from a local boutique, refusing Michael's offer to buy something expensive. The twins served as flower girls, scattering petals with solemn importance. During the ceremony, when the officiant asked if anyone objected, Lily raised her hand. The guests gasped. Michael's heart stopped, but Emma just smiled. "Yes, Lily?" the officiant asked. "I don't object," Lily clarified seriously. "I just wanted to say that Mom Emma, is the best person we know, and Daddy is really lucky." "I second that," Sophie added. Laughter rippled through the audience. Michael wiped his eyes. Emma knelt in her wedding dress, pulling both girls into a hug that said more than vows could. Not because he was rich, not because he was poor, but because he was real. And in the end, that was the only thing that mattered.